Hey everybody, it's Ed O'Keefe, and today I have a good friend, someone I haven't talked to in way too long. And Craig, I don't know about you, but like with the podcast, there's so many old friends that I want to reconnect with that by the time I have the conversation, we always are like, we should have just recorded it and throw it up here in the podcast. Craig Ballantyne, I've known Craig since he was like the king of abs and fitness and body workouts like 15 years ago. And he's written, I think, I'm going to say 3 books. I might be wrong on it. It was probably more like 10.
Yeah, it's 3.
Okay, so 3 key books, and then has really, we'll talk, I'm going to ask him a bunch of questions on each one, but like the Perfect Day Formula is probably what most people know him best for. It's been his system of teaching people how to get more done without having to give up their entire lives. And so we're going to dig into that. We're also going to tap into, he wrote a book called Unstoppable, which I've read, by the way. I've read both these books, just so you know. I thought Unstoppable is like a must read for so many people who don't understand the power of introvertism, if I'm even utilizing that word properly, like people that are quiet, who like have anxiety or just don't we reward. And I know we're going to go in depth on this a little bit because I'd like to. We're definitely a society that rewards the puppy dog who enters the room wagging their tail and licking people's hands, And you've also, in just the last 2 things I'll say, and then we'll just dive in, is like, I've seen a massive transformation in how your public persona over the last 5 years. And I'd like to talk about that because I think it's very inspiring. Sure. There's strategy behind that and just some lessons there. But most importantly, new dad, new baby, new wife in the last 16 months. Am I accurate on that?
Yeah, it was August 2021. So whatever that is, going on. It's going on it's not even a year yet. So
that's awesome, dude. So a lot going on. So yeah, how you been, man?
Really good, man. Really good. So we moved down to Cancun from Canada and had the baby here, and it's been unbelievable. I mean, you got 7 kids. You don't need me to tell you how unbelievable it is. And so it's really wonderful. And we've been adapting pretty well to it. Just super excited for the future.
You think you love something in life and then you have a baby,
Totally.
Yeah.
And you think you think you're doing a good job and you think that you're taking care of people until you have a baby. And then you're like, man, now you got something to take care of. And that can definitely shift your mindset. For me, I was walking a lot of the things on that path before the baby, but I can see if I had a baby, how old were you when you had your first kid?
Well, I was at a pretty good age in the sense that I think I was 28, 29. Which, my business was doing well. So it was like a night, I had gone through that broke phase. And I jokingly say that, and I will jokingly say that when you're an entrepreneur, there's a thin line sometimes from crushing it to experiencing that broke phase.
To getting crushed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And especially when you got we're just in a different phase where, you have 7 Catholic tuitions and you have a lot of moving parts, but I was just to answer that question though, 23, I graduated college. And so I had a good 5.5 years of trying to figure out where I wanted to land directionally for career. And my wife was she's a year and a half older than me. So we were ready. We were both ready for us. And I know it's different. I have a buddy who's, he doesn't want to have his first kid till he's 50. That's his plan. And that's his plan. Yeah. Because he's got certain goals he wants to hit. That's not for me, but I don't judge that in a negative way. Yeah. So,
I mean, I certainly am just blown away by, I don't want to use this term derogatorily in any way, the average person, the person, two working parents who have a kid and who might live far from family. We have taken advantage of a lot of the opportunity that my business has provided us to hire help, right? Yeah. But even with help, it's still really hard. And, thinking of like, man, but then I talked to my mom, and like, maybe it's the same with your mom too. It's like, my mom's like, yeah, it wasn't really that hard. I did it all myself. Like my dad never helped her with anything. And she's like, yeah. Like, I don't understand. It's not that hard. Why would you need help? And I'm like, can't comprehend your perspective on it, but it certainly is absolutely. I mean, everything's a miracle about the baby, and it's full-time job keeping them happy and not crying too much. So it's shout out to all the parents, but also I watched watching my wife go through 40 hours of labor. You're like, there's nothing that I could possibly endure that would be like that.
Yeah, people always say like, and you probably get some of this too. Is like, and actually, you're going to enjoy this as your daughter, right? You had a baby girl, correct?
Yeah.
As she gets older, but like my kids, I have a few good kids that are good athletes or they're tough kids, and people will be like, oh, well, they get that from you, and I'm like, oh, hell no! Like you think I'm the tough one because I post my workout videos, or when I climb a mountain, you see that, but you don't see the real grit person behind me, who's my wife. I'll tell you a funny story. Let me digress on the story, just to give your wife credit on that. And I also think I want to say two things, Craig. Like, when people hear I have 7 kids, they're like, oh, well, we only have 1. And I always stop them. Like, listen, man, the first one is by far the hardest. And hard is hard. I think people like totally negate themselves or their own power by saying silly things like that. They're not being silly, but it's not real, because hard is hard. Like that's like if somebody who's just starting working out is going through such a grind, and they look at a Navy SEAL and they're like, well, you did that, so what I did doesn't count. And you're like, no. See, like for the team guy, that's him. He's always, you're talking to him 20 years down the road of where you're currently at. So hard is hard. And I think, I had great advice, and then we could segue into other topics, but it's like, my brother-in-law, who had 6 kids, said to me, great advice when we first had Grace, is he said, my only advice to you is you can be tired and you can be tired, but you can't be tired at the same time. And he's like, so if you need to go to sleep, you go to sleep. And if you need to go to sleep, you go to sleep. But don't stay up late nurturing each other, because it's only, like the whole idea is like you got to fuel and get going. And you guys are amazing. I think our parents came from
we found the shift work. Yeah, we found the shift work thing is helpful. I mean, you can sit there and commiserate, but that's not getting anybody ahead.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's so much time for that. And what's funny is, I'll tell you, like, so I think our parents, like my mom passed away at the age of 86, just 6 months ago, something like that. And lived amazing. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And what a celebration of life, right? But that was a different generation on many parts, but also too, like, I'll say, like, I think there's something great about our memory. Our memory is really good at erasing hard times when necessary. And so,
Michelle's already said that about the labor.
Yeah.
Because, watching her go through it, Ed, my biggest worry, aside from, I wanted her to be safe. I wanted the baby to be safe. And I was like, okay. And once the baby came around, I'm like, there's no way she's going to agree to doing this again.
Yeah.
and sure enough, she, I was totally wrong on that, because she has wiped some of that from her memory.
Yeah. And it's all worth it. So that's awesome. Well, cool, brother. Cool.
Yeah.
So, hey, I got a question. Since this is my show, where do you want to start? What is getting Craig Ballantyne most excited outside of new family? And I know you, like, so the last time we even briefly chatted, you were doing, I think you did like 100 podcasts in 1 year for the Perfect Day Formula. Yeah, for the Perfect Day
I've
Formula.
probably been on, I think between being on other people's shows and doing some with Bedros, I've probably done like 600 episodes and, with people's shows and been on there and told the stories and stuff like that. And it really helped me write the next book, which is the Perfect Week Formula. And And honestly, like if anybody was to read any of my books, just to get for the biggest, most general population, broad benefits, that book will have the greatest impact. It really will give you 5-10 hours back per week into your life, which you can then choose to, build another business, or, finally get back to the gym, or spend with your kids, or, do whatever you want with them, read books. I don't care, but it'll give you time back. And that book was because when I wrote the Perfect Day Formula, we had so many questions in the Amazon reviews, and every time I'd speak at an event or I'd go on a podcast, I'd be like, man, I didn't cover that in the book. And that's such a good point, because people will say, well, I only have 1.7 kids and 2.1 dogs. And so this isn't going to work for me because, the other person only had, one kid and, 1.1 dogs. And it's like, everybody comes up with these reasons why that book wouldn't work for them. I mean, it will work, but, there's, Ed, the funny thing is like my worst review is from a woman with one child on Amazon, and my best review is from a single woman with 3 kids. And, it's a perspective. This is the greatest book ever, and the other one is like, oh, but this doesn't apply to people with kids. And so, anyways, we took all that feedback, which is a business lesson in and of itself. You create something, you get the feedback, you go and make another version that's better, and that's what we did with the Perfect Week Formula. And it's a very short read. You can get the audiobook, you can get the ebook, you can get all my books for free at craigballantyne.com/free books. And like you get the digital and audiobook without putting your email in or anything. So if you like those versions, just get them there. And then, that book is the one that I tell everybody to start with because it'll give you the most results the fastest. And I'm just so excited to get it into everybody's hands because, imagine getting everybody 10 hours a week. That's 500 hours in a year, and you can do a lot of damage with 500 hours.
Yeah, that's actually, so let's why don't we do the origin story on Perfect? How did you stumble into this? Because I know like you bought a business, you were doing some really cool things with Matt as partners. And then I know you and Bedros were doing some things, and then the Perfect Day Formula, now the Perfect Week Formula. When did you you've always been a pretty disciplined guy. You've always been someone that, as all of us, who you go through that goal achievement phase. But give everybody kind of the backstory and then just an overview, and we can go in depth on the key pillars of your system, because this is, I feel I need this more now than I've probably ever needed it. And the reason I noticed it, one of the big things I noticed is now being 46, 7 kids, all in different age groups. You see, that's my high school kids, and I got my little kids, all with different sets of priorities and goals. Right. And I'm trying to I only have so many more years to mentor them out the door. The idea of working all day long and not being, I've always been a pretty active dad, but I feel like right now it's like there's windows of time for each one of them that I need a Perfect Week Formula myself. So I'm super stoked to be on this. I'm gonna act as a student right now because I need it, Yeah,
absolutely. And so the Perfect Week Formula came about from spending a lot of time with Bedros Keuilian. And Bedros Keuilian, for those who don't know, he has multiple big businesses now. But at the time, he really had this franchise Fit Body Bootcamp. And at the time, he had 800 locations and 500 franchisees. And he had 55 people working in his headquarters. And I would spend a lot of time with him down in California. We ran a lot of coaching programs and stuff. But the thing is, Ed, at the end of the day on Wednesday, even if we had spent the entire day coaching somebody or the entire day filming podcasts, at 5 o'clock, he would basically kick me out of his car, or he'd ask me to come over to his house and babysit his kids because it was date night. And it was such a revelation. Here's a guy who's got all of these competing demands for his time, right? Everything you could possibly, there's so many people want a piece of his time. And he would just have this hard cutoff, a boundary, a non-negotiable, and to do something that he really wanted. He was building his life around his business, his business around his life and not his life around his business. That's the subtitle of the book, because what most people do is they say, hey, we're going to try and have date night on Thursday. And, so it's already negotiable. It's already you can push it off. And then at 2:30 in the afternoon on Thursday, man, super busy. We're going to do dinner and a movie tonight. Let's just do one. Then at 3:30, it's okay, listen, we can't go out to the movie or, I'll bring something home, and then at 4:30, it's like, I'm going to get some Chick-fil-A on the way home and bring it home for the family. It's like they've negotiated their way out of this thing. And it's the same with so many aspects of life. People say, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym, or I don't have time to do this. And one of the things that I always noticed, and this, I think I noticed at first with our friend Yannick Silver, is when he had his first kid, he actually became, quote unquote, more disciplined, but more structured. It gave him more boundaries. And I see like entrepreneurs and busy people go one way, one of two ways when they have a kid. It either just complete chaos and now they complain they can't get anything done, or it actually forces them to become a better entrepreneur and say no to more things. And so that was a huge, huge aspect, because I remember years ago, I think you were the first guy to call. You casually said, Craig, you're the world's most productive man, because I think I was writing a whole bunch of email newsletters, and you're like, I don't know how you write all this stuff in a day. And then a couple of people took that and like put their spin on and started calling me the world's most disciplined man, because in order to be productive, you have to be disciplined, sort of thing. But you can be disciplined in a way where you work 14 hours a day. Like, that's a disciplined person. They work 14 hours a day, but that's the wrong kind of discipline for people who really want to have it all and not wait till they're 50, right? And again, 100%. No offense to that man's choices, but certainly not the choice that I want to take. And so I'm a big believer in separation of work life and home life, that when you're working, you work. And when you're with your kids, you're with your kids. You're not, toggling back and forth between the phone and the kid. Unless you're taking pictures of the kid or something like that. But we wanted to set up that separation based upon boundaries and non-negotiable activities. And so you really need to think, for everybody listening, think about what's missing from your life, what's truly missing. And obviously there's a limit to how much of your personal life you put into your calendar. You can't, only work 4 hours a week. It's not actually a sustainable way if you want to grow in most cases. But if you think about, like, I'm missing out on this, maybe mixed martial arts brought you joy, and now you're 20 pounds overweight and you have no energy and you don't really have any joy in your life. Well, like, that thing needs to go on your calendar first. The family afternoons on Saturday that seem to be negotiated away, and you doing some work on Saturday morning, next thing you know, it's 3:00 and you don't have any time for the family on a Saturday afternoon. Well, that's got to be fixed too. And you got to put that family time on the calendar. And, I talked to so many entrepreneurs. Another genesis of this, Ed, was I did these pre-COVID, we did these one-day workshops, probably about 5 or 6 of them a month with 5 entrepreneurs. And basically, I did this perfect week formula presentation 75 times to refine it. And we worked with everybody from CEOs that had literally 1,000 employees, reporting to them in one way or another, to the, solo entrepreneur. And it was just, what kept on coming up was, I don't have time for date night. We want to do it 4 times per month. We might do it once. I don't have, I'm missing out on this. I want to raise well-adjusted kids, but I got 12-hour workday and a 1-hour commute. It's like, things weren't lining up. They were misaligned in their actions and their goals. And that causes a lot of stress and anxiety. And so the whole Perfect Week formula was built to fix that by looking at your weekly planning as a blank sheet and putting your life on it first. And then that forced you to become more productive, more efficient, and say no to things and cut things off. Because, guys like you and I, I'm sure you went through a phase like this. I don't know if you're still like this, but it's like, there's so many cool opportunities, so many businesses you'd like to start, so many projects we want to do. And it's like a person going to a Vegas buffet, putting all the stuff on their plate that they can't possibly eat. And, they put stuff on their plate they don't even like, but it's just there. So I may as well put it on my plate. And it's the same with entrepreneurs. Our eyes are bigger than our actual to-do list can possibly be. And so we need to make sure that we need to make sure that we're realistic in what we can accomplish. And, when you prioritize things in the right way and you make the time of day, and the one thing that I've really been talking about lately, Ed, is matching the intensity of the activity with the intensity of your brain power. Because what a lot of people make a mistake of doing is they've got a hard project to do and they don't know themselves well enough to know that there's a certain time of day where if I attack this project, I get 3 times more done than if I did it at any other time of day. And I call that the magic time. And so when it's like the thing you had to do when you were a kid, right? You're like a toddler, you get these block shapes and star shapes and circle shapes, and then you go put them in the shape sorter. And it's just, you have the most difficult task is a square peg. And then your most energetic time of the day is a square hole. And you got to put the square peg in the square hole. But most people that go around, it's like, I've got this time, I'm going to put my hardest activity in it, and it doesn't work. And so, just by thinking about that and planning properly, that's how you become more productive. And I'll let you ask some more questions. I can talk about this forever.
Yeah, well,
I'm so excited about it because I see what it does.
Yeah, I think I wrote down a few things as you're saying, like one of the most powerful things you said there was like negotiated your way out of it. Like that's justifying all the reasons why you can't do what will potentially make you great, or whether it's your relationship, whether it's that physical activity, whether it's the things that really matter. Something I've been thinking a lot about lately too is how much time am I wasting by seeing other cool like things. Like I want to learn how to shoot guns. I want to learn how to do, like, there's so many things I want to learn how to do, but what's my priority is I'm trying to help my son to break 70 in golf, right? Which means I'm spending time with him on the course. I'm learning about golf. We're dedicating time to, that's a higher priority than me learning this fun or going to the desert for 4 days with a bunch of guys and shooting guns. So it's like, well, what if I just put that on the shelf for like 3-4 years? Like, don't even give it mental bandwidth, because it's just pulling like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could do that? Yeah, but your priority is telling you you're not going to. So let's stop even messing with that energy.
And what a lot of people miss out on, Ed, is that I use this I have my arm out in a straight line here. And at the end of the arm is your North Star, right? It's your vision for your life and the values that you have, because your values and vision need to drive every decision. And so the people who have this straight line to success, to their North Star, like they're like you, able to make that decision. Like, oh, going and shooting guns in the desert, that's a total detour for my straight line to success. It's really cool, but it's not for this season of life that I'm going through. Guns and the desert will still be there in a few years, provided the politicians don't get their way. And so anyways, that opportunity is there. But right now, the most important thing that I need to do is XYZ. And I often use the example there is like, a young man. So if there's any younger men who aren't married, you're engaged and you want to get married, and then somebody asks you to go to Vegas for a bachelor party, like, you should know that that's a bad idea. Like you're 2 months away from your own wedding and somebody wants to go to a bachelor party in Vegas. It's not yours. And it's like, no, that nothing good will come of that, because that takes me on a detour and a straight line to success. And, so many people have, first of all, have screwed up because they've gone on detours. But the biggest problem, Ed, is that nobody knows. Most people don't spend the time of thinking of what really matters. They don't have a North Star. And therefore, if you don't have a North Star, you can't create a straight line to success. And they spend their entire lives going on detours and chasing things that don't really matter. And then you end up looking back and you go, oh my gosh, what have I accomplished in this life or this business? It's all been the wrong things. And so that introspection to find your values and your vision will help you drive every daily decision. And it's just all, oh, okay, I get it now.
So let's go backwards a little bit. So when I first met you, when you're in the fitness, you were very, very quiet. Like overall, you were more internal. You were sure. Internal, and I would have never imagined that you would go from. And by the way, when I say, this is for everyone listening, when I say the word introvert, like there's a great book. I think it's called Quiet.
Power Quiet. Quiet, I think, by Susan Cain.
It's really good at teaching. It was very helpful for me, who I thought my whole life I was just 100% extrovert. And when I read that book, I was like, oh my gosh, I prefer to be alone. I prefer to like most of the time. When it's showtime, I'm outwardly. I love people. I'm a dog. Like, I like saying hi to everybody. My kids think I know everybody. But it's because my vision's got faded a little bit. So I just wave because I think I know people. But like on a work day, I prefer to be alone most of the time. I like my own thoughts. I was like, wow, I guess I do have more like introvert stuff. But when I first met you, I was like, wow, Craig's very, frankly, kind of hard to talk to sometimes, because you were very focused. You were more internal. And if you would have told me 13, 14 years ago that you were going to be doing Instagram videos and being very comfortable in front of a camera and impacting so many people the way you're doing it, I would have been like, Craig, you're talking about? And you've really like shifted from, you've just really transformed, I think, internally. And you cover some of it in your book, Unstoppable, about dealing with anxiety and stuff like that. Can we just, I just opened up a big loop, and I kind of want you to just kind of go through like your own interpretation of your journey. Because I think like before people can be like, wait, I'm going to go out, I'm going to create this North Star. And guess what? I'm going to create non-negotiables. And I'm going to do this. You have to have a level of internal frame of reference that, hey, I have permission to go do that. And it's my life, you know? So take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I actually made an Instagram video on this last night. My wife recommended that I did. I haven't posted it yet, but I soon will. And everything is a learnable skill. And so, you know, you used a word that was absolutely perfect for this, which was when it's showtime, right? When it's showtime. And so there's a story that I always reference that, you know, Marlon Brando, everybody's like Marlon Brando, you know, one of the greatest actors of all time, super introvert. And it's like people would see me on stage and go, how can you go on stage and give a presentation but be introverted? Like they just didn't, like, it doesn't mean that you can't talk. It doesn't mean that you can't do a performance, because a lot of the times it is a performance. So at the same time, like the Instagram videos, and even, you know, now when I go into a room, I'm kind of a dog. You know, I go up and I'm having a mastermind meeting here in Cancun next week. And, you know, I'm going to be a dog when I go into that room. I'm going to go up and shake everybody's hand and, ask them questions and, engage in conversation and try and, do my best, golden retriever imitation that I can.
Yeah. Can I interrupt you real quick on the dog thing? I just want to do an outframe for my listeners. So like, years ago when I learned, Michael Grinder, whose brother John Grinder was one of the founders of NLP, I was 24, 25 years old, and I was in a room and we were doing facilitation training, and he labeled people like cats and dogs, and cats were more kinesthetic, auditory, but cats, and he related to human beings, like cats like to circle the room. Cats don't want to be called on in front of a big group. If you give them a compliment, it's got to be, okay, so we're going to go to the bathroom here. Hey, Craig, that was really great how you shared right there. And then keep going. Don't put the spotlight on them. Like they talk about that. And as cats warm up, they'll meet the dogs in the middle. But you can't treat a cat like a dog. And dogs are people who walk in like a golden retriever. They're very visual. They want to get licked. They want everyone to know they entered the room. And that's obviously when you're being showtime, you got to do that. But so that's when I use that. So we're on the same page. I just want to do an outframe for everybody because it's
that's great. That's great. And so it being a golden retriever is a learnable skill. And so what I did is very much like what I'm sure your son is doing with golf, which is, you find a model at which you want to model, obviously. So I looked at some of my most outgoing and extroverted friends who I later learned some of them were not actually extroverted, but they were also using learnable skills to go into a room, to say everybody's name, to shake their hand, to smile, to make them feel warm, to make, because a lot of people really need that. And so it's like, oh, that's what I do. So a lot of it was with Pedro. So we ran masterminds together, and I would go in before the meeting and I'd sit right down and be like, okay, let's get started on the information, just being the way that I was. And he would be, going around talking to everybody, warming them up, that sort of thing. It's like, okay, clearly his approach is a better approach. Let me watch how he does it. Let me watch what he says.
See, that's interesting. Can I interrupt you? That's so interesting. So like, I know most people right there are going, well, I'm just not Pedro's. I don't do that. Like that is, we've been trained that way. And by the way, it's not your fault. Probably some teacher told you that bullshit. Like at some point, like, hey, you're just quiet. You're just an introvert. You're just shy. And somewhere the kid goes, okay, so I'm not like them. Okay, yeah. So I'll behave in this worldview for the rest of my life. And it's just, so interesting. So you did the opposite.
But Bedros is an immigrant to America who did not speak English when he came here, got teased as a kid, had, accent, doesn't have a college degree, all these sort of things. And he's introverted, but he learned that there's so much value. There's more value in certain situations in being a golden retriever than there is in being a cat.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and there was many other people like Porter Stansberry from Stansberry Research, and there's just a lot of people I could list a lot and just go, oh, I see what they're doing when they go in here. I can learn to do that too. And then with this, speaking and doing videos on stage, I would watch two different types of people on YouTube. I'd watch foul-mouthed comedians and I'd watch pastors. Because if you think about what's the commonality between those two, they tell stories that hold people on the edge of their seat. So if I want to learn how to tell stories, if I want to learn how to articulate myself, if I want to become a better speaker and do those things, then what I need to do is find role models. And so I would do that. And I went from being a robotic presenter on stage, not literally reading my slides, but taking cues from slides and then kind of spitting out information, to learning how to tell stories, kind of like Frank Kern, who I modeled a little bit of my stuff after him. And so it's like, okay, so I've got these models, I see what they're doing, and then you have to review your performance, which is most people do not enjoy it, but every single professional athlete who's become amazing reviews their performance. I've heard that U2 still reviews their performance from the night before to make their shows better the next day. And I'm sure your son.
Can I bring this back? This is his golf card right here. And so right now I'm having him like, you gotta get me all your stats so we could put them into our thing, so we can objectively see where we need to improve.
Exactly.
Joe Rogan still watches his comedy shows to see where he can improve. Like, come on, people! Like, this is what pros do. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the most enjoyable thing in the world, but I would watch my YouTube videos. I would watch my speeches on stage. And, even with the reels, like I'm pretty impatient guy, and I just want to do one take and then that's it. But, my wife will say, that was good, but you can do better. And I'm like, I know you're right. And, the child inside of me kind of wants to fight against it, but it's like, listen, I can do that introductory speech better, that opening line, because the opening line of the video is so important.
Yeah.
I did this one video that we posted yesterday. It was a story about Elon Musk nearly going broke on December 24th, 2008. It was a really good opening line, and it got more views than a normal video. So it's that kind of stuff. And watching people like Brendan Burchard, I'm never going to be a Brendan Burchard, but I mean, you got to give that guy credit for the energy that he brings. And so even though your preferred state is kicking back in a chair, taking in information and maybe writing information, stuff like that, if you want to really make an impact, it's more difficult now to make it only through the written word. There's some people that can, but everybody in general who's making the biggest impact is doing some type of audiovisual stuff. And so by doing the 600 podcasts, I was able to learn how to drag out my words like I've been doing in this sentence, so that I don't say and ah, so that I'm able to tell the story better, so that I can listen. And I learned how to change my pitch, pace, and tonality by watching a lot of Jordan Belfort. I went to some of his seminars before people even know who he was. Joel Marion took me to some of those. And you just take all these lessons from people, and you can then go and say, all right, with practice, I'm going to go and do it. And the last thing I'll say about that, Ed, is when I started on Instagram and before, up until 2017, I still used a 7-year-old BlackBerry. So I was not even on Instagram. And then I finally got on Instagram and I realized how Instagram worked. Instagram was essentially kind of like email marketing. And I was good at email marketing. So I decided it was a video version of email marketing. So I started doing videos. And it was hesitant at first, but then one day I was walking around Toronto when I lived there, and I saw the younger generation, how like they're walking down the phone or the road, FaceTiming someone, and it doesn't bother them at all. So then I decided I was going to go make Instagram videos in very crowded public spaces, because that helped me overcome the fear of making videos anywhere. It's like I call it the whip it out challenge. You should be able to whip out your phone at any time, anywhere, in any circumstance, and make a video. And you have to overcome the judgment that you believe is happening, which is not happening.
People you believe is happening. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So then the other thing that I came up with is I tell people now, like if you know that you should be making video, but you are hesitant for any particular reason to make video, then the challenge to you is for the next 30 days, is to do a 1-minute video every single day. You don't have to post it, but if you post it, you will actually improve even faster. 1-minute video, you pick a topic. And I actually did this for my Instagram following. It's like, today we're going to talk about the number one lesson you learned from your favorite book, the best mentor you ever had in high school, one of the favorite things about your parents, one of your favorite stories from when you were a kid. And it's just like, here are the topics, because most people, they like, what do I talk about? Well, I'll give you the topic. Now talk for a minute. So do that every single day for 30 days. Also, twice per week, do a 3-minute video. So twice per week, you got to do a 3-minute video. And then once per week, a 10-minute video, because those 3 to 10-minute videos are best for YouTube if you actually publish them. And at the end of the 30 days, I've had a lot of people do this. It was almost like they did a weight loss challenge, because as you mentioned before, I was in the fitness industry for 20 plus years, and we had people do these transformations and lose a ton of weight. And anybody who's lost weight, you are not the same person at the end of the 12-week weight loss challenge that you are at the start. And then I actually discovered the same thing with the 30-day video challenge. People were not the same person at the end of 30 days by doing simply a minute of video. They were more confident. They could articulate their ideas better verbally. One of my friends, Jason Capital, he says, people talk on average for like 7 minutes a day. How do you expect to get world class at something if you talk for 7 minutes a day or 12 minutes a day?
That's pretty crazy. That is an amazing statistic, right?
Yeah. And so most people go around and like, they might mumble some words to a friend, they sit in their car and listen to stuff. They sit at home and watch Netflix, and like, you don't actually talk in most cases.
Yeah.
So how are you going to get better at telling stories on stage? Or when you have to go in, just why people are so paralyzed and terrified of speaking at their friend's wedding. Like, you've never learned how to tell a story properly, but it's actually so easy. And you can actually learn the skills of structuring a story with an opening line and, the hook and that sort of stuff, that it's also formulaic that you're able to do it. And so, just going back to how I was able to do it, it was, first of all, a decision on my part, a conscious decision that if I want to achieve the things in life, and if I want to achieve what I know that I'm capable of doing, then I need to attempt this and master this. And you can go and master these things. And it actually becomes pretty fun over a while to learn how to engage with people, get them hooked. You get the response in your videos, you get people reaching out and saying that's helpful, and you get to reach people
and you build
all
your
around
business.
The world and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So real quick, just for everybody, I was just pulling it up as you were chatting. Real Craig Ballantyne is his Instagram handle. And then on YouTube, Early to Rise, is that still your YouTube channel, or is it? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that is.
But you can type in Craig Ballantyne and it'll pop up. There's tons of great videos. It's like a library of. I also challenge people to watch the video of Craig and Bedros. They're so good together, and there's so much good insight when they chat. It's pretty awesome.
We spend a lot of time together. And I do have another YouTube channel for my fitness stuff, but we never post on anymore. But some of the videos got really popular during COVID, and you can watch me. I posted my first videos on YouTube in 2007, so you can actually watch how bad I was. It was like a human robot talking on screen, and I hated filming. I hated it for so long, and it sucked energy out of me. But now it actually energizes me because I've turned it into something that I'm a little bit better at. Now, the other thing that I'll say here is, no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're a business owner or if you're a concerned parent who needs to go to the school board. I think in the last year, I've seen some very powerful speakers at school boards that have made a mega difference in not only the conversation at their school board, but the entire conversation throughout the country, because they learned how to articulate things. So if you want to be a great speaker when you read the Bible at church, or if you want to be a great speaker to your school board and argue, or if you want to be a great lawyer, if you want to, like, all these things, it's not just some guy who wants to sell books on Instagram, but it's all these people. Like, there's no person who couldn't benefit in life by being a better persuader through verbal communication. Yeah. Nobody. Okay. Nobody.
I'm going to pause you for time's sake, because I have a follow-up on that.
Okay.
You're obviously not, but the other thing is that you wouldn't be doing this if it also didn't have a direct correlation to your North Star and and your business. Did you find, my specific question is, what is your highest return on invested time? Did you find that, yeah, that's my question.
I'll say, my highest return on invested time, Ed, has been teaching copywriters to write in my voice. That is by far.
Oh, wow,
because
that's a good one.
So the book, The Perfect Week Formula, is my best book. I didn't write it. The name of the author is on there. It's Craig Ballantyne with Austin Gillis. Austin, I think he's maybe 26 now, maybe 25 still.
Yeah.
He started in our business at 22. I taught him to write as me, both the book and our emails to our list and sales letters. So he's written the sales.
Frees up your whole day, because that's what you used to be with your highest return on invested time.
Yeah. So Mark Ford, who I bought Early to Rise from, he would send me an email and say, "Hey, you wrote a great email today." I'm like, "I didn't write it. Austin wrote it." And now he's hired Austin for some of his copywriting projects. But the cool thing is that Austin doesn't write our emails anymore. Another guy writes the emails, and Austin taught him how to write those emails.
I love it.
So that's the replication. And whether you think about like a guy like Zig Ziglar or some of my friends that run these solar companies, the best use of their time has been replicating sales skills in other individuals so that their income increases massively. Before teaching Austin that, it probably would have been, email copywriting was the best use of my time, because that's how I made, most of my income in the fitness years. And then learning how to speak and do these podcasts and stuff like that has also led to a lot of opportunities. But at the end of the day, it was teaching the copywriting to those individuals who could go out and sell our stuff without me doing much more than reviewing it and giving some insight. And at the end of the day, I don't even think my insight was helpful.
So
because they did such a good job.
Oh, you're funny. You're just so a big focus this year for me was Harvey Mackay's mindset of dig your well before you're thirsty. Do you remember that book?
I've heard that, yeah.
Okay, I mean, you probably love it. But it's like it was something, one of the first books I probably read when I was like 23 to 26, and I'm rereading it now because I'm finding that as I get older, you can't sleep on your relationships. Like your network is truly your net worth, because things can go wrong and things can go really well. But it's almost always direct correlated to relationship in your network. And you are the only person, which I'm stealing this, by the way, it's been on my list, I got to make it a priority, is you're the only one that every single month, like clockwork, I get an unpaid newsletter or postcard in the mail from Craig Ballantyne. Whether I am interested in anything in that newsletter or not, there's always something that, hey, oh, wow, Craig's getting married. Oh, Craig got a new dog. Holy crap, Craig has a baby. Here's all his workshops. Here's, if I need get a hold of Craig, he's making it crystal clear what's going on. That is like old school to the
Dan
new
Kennedy,
school.
Man.
Old school, new school. Yeah. I mean, did you just pick that up mentally one day and say, I'm going to start just build up my list of dream 1,000 friends, partners, influencers, and just say, guys, I'm going to keep in touch with these people because this is my future pathway,
I was definitely influenced by a guy who we were both influenced a lot by, Dan Kennedy. He has paid subscriptions, and I do have a small paid subscription that we've been doing for a while. Most of it's delivered electronically, but I mean, I'm a writer, and so I produce 3,000 to 5,000 words every week for my clients. And then from that, we select the best that kind of go in our email newsletters. And then the best goes in those print newsletters that we go out. And, it costs me like $1.30 or $1.60 to send those out. And we send them to a lot of people. And, it always, keeps me front of mind. Dan Kennedy once said, when you have a plumber problem and, like when the fridge breaks down or you need a plumber, the one that gave you the fridge magnet that you look at every single day when you open up the fridge, you're going to call that guy or that gal. And so it's just staying in front of mind. And every year, one person sends me a message and says, hey, I'd like to hire you for some consulting or coaching. And it more than pays for the sending out of all the copies every single month. And it's a good way just to stay in touch with people because, I really do, I appreciate our friendship. And, if it wasn't for that newsletter, we wouldn't be able to catch up. And it's really good. I really appreciate knowing that you drop me into almost any city in North America and plenty of cities all over the world. And I'll know somebody there who will give me the insider information, or I can just catch up with somebody. And, there was one thing that, my network paid off handily last year, just on this side project like this. There's a government program called Employee Retention Credit, which they have committed like a mega amount of money. It's like PPP, but you don't actually have to pay it back. And one of my network told me about it. And my gym, and I co-own a gym in South Carolina, got $35,000 back from it. And then I helped a whole bunch of other people get money back from it.
Wow.
From my network, people I hadn't talked to in years. It's like anybody whose business suffered in 2020 can get some money back. And people who suffered from the supply chain crisis can get some money back. And I just connected a whole bunch of people. Like one of my friends got $350,000. It's a meat packing company. And he got $350,000. Another guy has a medical clinic, got $21,000 back. $21,000 isn't 350, but it still helps.
Also now they're plugging into Craig Ballantyne's network, and that's the key thing.
Yeah.
And I think, I could talk about this topic a long time. So I love it.
And then, the cool thing is I heard from so many people after we had our kid, and I talked to a lot of people that I hadn't talked to in 2 years and heard their birth stories. Like getting other people's birth stories is really good when you know, like how tough your wife had it. And then you hear like, wow, that person's wife had it tough. And they almost had the exact same situation. And now they can give some advice on what to do for the next 6 months. And it's just, you really couldn't go anywhere for 2020 or 2020. Well, 2021 you could, but I just didn't see all the people I used to see, but I could still stay in touch with them and benefit from it. And, it's a long game thing. Yeah. It costs me money every month to send it out, but I might not talk to somebody for 5 years, but when I do talk to them in 5 years, we're not too distant anymore.
Too removed. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. So 1 minute and then I gotta bounce.
Dang.
And we could do a part 2 in like 6 months, because I'd love to have you on. I interviewed Bedros like 4 years ago. I got to get him back on, man. He's doing some really crazy, out wild, amazing things. Yeah. So I love it. Where can people get a hold of you, and what workshops do you have coming up? And work with you?
I think the 2 best things people can do is, 1, hit me up on Instagram at Real Craig Ballantyne. I have LinkedIn stuff too, but it's mostly Instagram. And then go to craigballantyne.com/free books. And you can grab all 3 of my books for free, the ebook and audio book, and get in there, and they'll be super helpful to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me know when, just for everyone listening, like when you get the book, go through it, gain back 10 hours. Like, what are you going to do with those 10 hours of your week?
Yeah.
Because I love it. Craig, you're the best, man. I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked for you, because when I saw you, when I saw that Michelle was pregnant, I immediately thought, I'm like, his ability to coach people is going to exponentially get better in the next year and a half. Like, not that it wasn't great. It's just a new depth of seeing the world. I can't explain it. I try not explain it to people. Like when they're like, oh, we're about to have our first kid. I'm like, I can't wait to see on the other side of it, because the world shifts. And it's like, I don't want to infect your filters, because your filters are your experience, but I just can't wait. Cause like, I just remember when we had Grace, I was like, my heart is gone. Like, it's no longer mine. It was just ripped out of my chest. That was my experience. It was just ripped out of my chest. And now as I get older, I have a different perspective. The material things I used to think were important are just not as important. They're just noise. And we dealt with one of our kids battling Lyme disease and long haul COVID, and we're still going through it, but we're in a positive lane. But it's like, then experiencing that gave me a totally new perspective to a different area of parenting that I never even had an awareness about, like of just having a kid that was sick. So All right, love you too, brother. I got to kick you off because.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, dude.
But you're the best. Anything I could do, I'm always here. You're the best. Hey, I'm going to keep going real quick because that's Craig Ballantyne. I didn't mean to say I'm kicking him off. I do have an interview next with this. Sometimes I book these way too close together, and Craig is a hard guy to get a hold of, so I wanted to make sure that we got him. But check him out, man. He's one of my favorite people. His transformation and how he went from being super quiet to being such a force to reckon with people it's just unbelievable. So hopefully you enjoyed that interview, and have an amazing day. You guys are awesome. All right, bye.
Hey, it's Ed again. Hey, one last thing before you leave. First, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show. If you love this show or this episode and know someone who can benefit, please copy it and share it with them. Also, if you can do me a favor and leave a quick review wherever you listen to these podcasts the most, whether it's Apple, Spotify, etc., it really will help us get the message out to more people. That's it. Thanks again, and make it a great day.